Good evening. The news gang is here. Attack dogs on the loose. Who are their masters? Land for the ladies. The landmark ruling from Nyeri that got tongues wagging this week. And tonight, who will nurse the ailing health sector in Kenya? The money, the questions, and a strike. But let's begin with that return to insults, or what some call siasa ya matusi. It's all about Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho and Deputy President William Ruto. Whatever happened between these two gentlemen. Now, over the last 2 days or so, their supporters have slugged it out, sometimes in unprintable words and many unsubstantiated claims. We'll try if we can get some of the sound bites, if we can salvage some from that bizarre slugfest. But let's begin there, ladies and gentlemen. Bwana Gashuri, I was going to say you hung around this people. But I resist that temptation. But what is really going on here? I mean, for a moment, the president, when he was going to Arusha, said, hey, tuache hii maneno yote, siasa kando. DP akasema sasa ni siasa kando, maendeleo. But then suddenly, I think it was 2-3 days later, this erupts, and we don't even know what it is about.
There is what he said, there is what is being done. Two different things. While the president will ask those guys not to insult each other, to calm down, to focus on development, the DNA of these politicians is exactly that, politicking. And insulting each other, unfortunately, forms part of their DNA. And so it should not surprise us that they're insulting each other. And these are choreographed insults. The end result is clear. It's not just about drug trafficking allegations, forgery, grand corruption, theft, and looting of public resources, the accusations that they make against each other. These insults have everything to do with 2022. Because on one hand, Deputy President William Ruto and his supporters believe he's the front runner, the clear front runner in this race. But on the other hand, there are those who say he is not, or who believe he's not, and so probably would want to stop him. So paint him corrupt. On the other hand, his supporters will say, this Joho guy has an idea about 2022, and maybe he may be used to stop him. So what do? Paint him as a drug trafficker, as a forger, and so on and so forth. So it has everything to do with 2022. Let's face it. But the unfortunate thing, even as we face it, is that the people around them are cheering them, which is unfortunate.
But let's face it now. Linus, this Joho man, is this such a big factor, if any factor at all, in 2022, honestly? I mean, if we were to just look at how our politics plays out.
Okay, before you actually go to assessing Joho, you earlier opened with the issue of insults. What should worry us as a country is not the insults, but the quality of those insults. Insults...
What?
Yes. Insults.
Okay, I want to hear
what the quality.
They are very base. They are very low grade.
Yeah.
Look, insults are supposed to be part of good politics. And you look down the history of especially British and American politics, wit and those nice put downs are part of the politics. But look, here is an entire governor and another one discussing the sizes of their teeth.
No, the sizes,
how they look.
The sizes of their brain with reference to the number of teeth.
Yeah.
Let's just get it.
Well,
right,
the sizes of the brain is self-evident. They don't need to discuss that. Looking at the quality of the insults that they are putting out there, it's very, very disappointing. It's very, very worrying for the country.
Are you saying they're insulting the insults?
Yeah, they're insulting the insults. They're not doing it.
They're not doing them justice.
There's a way to insult.
There's a way to insult. It's been done. It's been done throughout history, and it's been done even in this country, where people actually issue what we call put downs, without sounding silly, and without even misleading the youth. Just the other day, before the end of last year, two boys arrested for insulting the cabinet secretary.
Oh yes,
well,
yes.
That is because that's what they see. That is what they see. Look at whoever watched Governor Joho and Governor Sang.
Yes.
Look at their exchange. Shameful. I think we need to worry about the quality of the insults, the quality of politicians we have right now. This is not what the insult should look like. This is not political put-downs, it's not wit, it's not smart. It's very, very stupid, and it's very wrong for the country.
Actually, when I remember when Obama was saying a few things about Donald Trump in the run-up to the last election in America, and he said that, you know, over the years I have disagreed with many presidential candidates. In fact, we have disagreed on the economy and all manner of things, but I never thought I would get to a point where I would be thinking that maybe this person is not qualified to be president.
That's an insult. Yeah,
I thought I was really below the belt, but it appeared like it was over the head.
Joe,
Jamila,
you have, in fact, the insults yesterday.
Insult this time.
No, it's not. Thank you. When the insults were happening, I think it was yesterday, we had the ODM members of parliament now coming out in full support of Joho, him being their deputy party leader. Those insults were on a different level. We couldn't even take it on air. We had to fade it out because it was really in bad taste. And we compare it with, let's say, debates in the House of Commons, or you talk about in the UK, when the debate on Brexit was going on. It is, of course, it's a heated argument, it's a big deal. But when they speak in a way that you can watch and you enjoy it. This is mature politicking.
Enjoyable insults.
Insults, if you say.
Joe, I want to just give just 2 or 3 illustrations of good insults.
Because Yvonne is really eager to jump in.
And I'm sure she's...
Not really.
Beware for intelligent insults.
And I'm sure she wants to listen to this. Jonathan Aitken, MP, on Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She probably thinks Sinai is the plural for sinus.
Okay.
Benjamin Disraeli, former British Prime Minister, describing his former colleague, former Prime Minister William Gladstone. If Gladstone fell into the Thames, the river, that would be a misfortune. But if anybody pulled him out, that I suppose would be a calamity.
That would be the greater misfortune, right?
Oh, wow. Wow.
You know, you were saying I wanted to jump in. No, I don't. I have nothing to say about this thing other than I am tired. And it's just. What more do you add to what we've been subjected to lately? What is it? It's like children in the playground. You remember when school would meet after the
question is Francis, does it matter? Is anyone listening to them? And are we giving them the oxygen of publicity that they seem to need?
Unfortunately, the politician who insults most
gets
the most airtime, which is unfortunate on our part.
I have a
but
problem
secondly,
with that,
the person who insults most often gets the loudest cheer. Haven't you seen in campaigns the person who is able to insult more, mwenye kona ma soundbite, utasemanga ule kona ma soundbite, unfortunately gets a lot of cheering. Ata kingia in a public podium, you'll hear people shouting. There's some love that is associated with those insults, which is unfortunate. In fact, in another discussion I was discussing with other colleagues, and the media, I think we are to blame to a great extent, because when you allow Stephen Sang an opportunity to call Joho a drug trafficker, a forger, an academic, to have all those insults that they were insulting each other, it's in bad taste. And then the following day, if you allow Joho and his supporters to call the deputy president all manner of names, it's also unfortunate. So I think deliberately we need to make a decision across our platforms that anybody who insults another person does not deserve our airtime. I mean, there are many people who say nice things. Let's put those nice things out there, so that these politicians, if we don't air those insults, they will not find an avenue for them. So imagine yesterday, the politicians timed the one.
And that is fine. But allow me to jump in here. It's not even about airing the nice things I just do not think this is of news value at all. Which is why I have really nothing to say about this. I mean, I don't understand what this is. Who has nothing between? I don't get what this is.
But
there's debate that is, and there's serious allegations that one would raise against another that is of news value, that would be an accountability issue. You know what I'm saying? But then
But let's. I mean, if these are the people that we have, they can. That's probably the best that they're able to give. I mean, like, they are members of parliament, there's a governor speaking there. how are you ever just going to ignore a governor, however stupid the comments they make may seem to you? I think that there is a question of going back to the fundamental conversation, because the insults are a symptom of something. It is not just some clever governor suddenly is making the silly comments. It is because there is a fundamental problem with the quality of the people that get into offices that we elect. And that says volumes also about the people who go to the polls every 5 years to elect these people. And we have to put it where it belongs.
Yeah, to display that, you know, these are the leaders that we have, and they come from, you know, from us. They don't come from Mars. But
and that is also
and even then,
there's also a role, I think, for journalists to expose bad things for what they are.
And that is fine, but without giving it context and just doing this, Sang said this today and so said this tomorrow. I mean, I still do wonder about just the value and whether that really has the expectation that we're saying we should give, and to tell people about you know, how their leaders are not focusing on
thank God
the
we
right
have
thing.
the news gang to do that. But let's talk about
but Joe, the news gang can only condemn. The news gang cannot remove politics from insults from our politics, and because in the same breath we cannot remove lies, for example. You know, these are the two things that go together with our politics. We can only take note of the declining quality of those insults, and even the brazen nature of the lies. Politicians lie through the teeth. They are very, very unaccountable. And when you look at our history, and it's back to the issue that you are raising about the generational decline, right through our history, from Jomo Kenyatta to Moi to Kibaki era, there have been insults. Jomo Kenyatta used to say vinyangarika, you know, useless little people. Moi had, depending on, he can call you Nyang'au.
Nyang'au was actually
Nyang'au was his favorite.
Yeah.
Moi Kibaki, I don't think we can
even
use
say
it on.
Can we?
And of course we know the current administration as well. President Uhuru Kenyatta has his choice lines. So insults is part of our politics, but it's the quality that we should worry about. It should not be about becoming so base, like we saw Joho and Governor Sang.
Okay, let's assume for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, that all these people lacked was probably the words, or at the risk of being stoned, the intellectual capacity to put the arguments across in words that are more respectable, and that they were in fact discussing something, or that their conversation pointed to something that is probably going to be a legitimate conversation going forward. And that goes back to the question I was asking earlier about these two people. So what is it about William Ruto and Ali Hassan Joho? It's certainly not the first time that there is this sort of thing happening around them.
I have one question, Joseph, before Gashuri jumps in, is when Ali Hassan Joho speaks, does he speak as Ali Hassan Joho as an individual, or Ali Hassan Joho as the deputy party leader of ODM, or does he speak for the party and the chairman of the party, who is Raila Odinga? Is this the conversation that is within the ODM as a party right now? Is Joho coming out as a strong contender in 2022? Is this someone who's being fronted by the party? I mean, is this the beginning of that journey, maybe fronting him as a potential flag bearer for the party?
Well, I mean, one would say, to the extent that the members of that party, those people we saw yesterday, Gladys Wanga, Junet Mohammed, and so on, those are ODM members, and someone like Junet, a high-ranking official in that party. So one would assume by the time they are coming out to defend Ali Hassan Joho because he's been attacked by other people, they are defending him as their deputy party leader. That would suggest that they do not disapprove of the manner in which he responded to all of these things. And one then has to ask that fundamental question, whether all those things he was saying, he's saying them on behalf of the party, in the name of the party, and that the party in fact approves of them.
Unfortunately, these insults will not cease they will most likely continue as we inch closer and closer to the 2022
So discuss
politics.
that 2022 thing.
The reason
why are they tied to 2022?
The reason why they are, everybody wants to paint the other bad and make them look or seem unelectable. And it's a common scenario in politics. If you want to make your opponent unelectable, so to say, you must say they are corrupt, they are drug traffickers, they are whatever. I mean, for example, the accusations against Joho, they're not new. We've had them time and again. And they subside and they come up, they subside and they come up. So you would say it's like
especially considering Joho has done his 2 terms.
Yeah.
And so obviously 2022 there's something.
He's heading somewhere.
Yeah, and Governor Sang has 1 term. This is his first term because he was senator before. And so, you know, for him there's a little bit of wiggle room because he can run for a second term.
Was he insulting on his own behalf?
I think
that's another question.
I honestly think we are overrating both gentlemen, both governors, with all due respect to them. I don't see it as a 2022 issue. I see it as a carryover of the battles that they fought pre the handshake. Pre the handshake. Remember, the handshake interrupted the political civil war that we had in this country. This is what they used to do on a daily basis: attack each other, attack Raila Odinga, attack William Ruto, attack Uhuru. You know, that was what you wake up to do. Now that has been removed, and the handshake has sent all politicians to the locker room. They're in the dressing room, and Uhuru is saying, "No, don't do politics." So don't come out of
so they're wondering what to do with themselves.
So there's this bottled up thing to the point that they are discussing their dental formula in the locker room, because somehow politics has been suppressed in a way. It's not attractive to both principles that you are talking politics.
Let's maybe move it along. So you were talking about them talking about their dental formula, but there's also, you know, another very prominent MP within ODM who was talking about viuno ambavyo vinashughuli and statements like those and others have landed her and Suleiman Dori in trouble, because that's another big political thing that was happening this week.
But and it's all connected to William Ruto, which is why one has to ask the question, Jamila, as you jump in, what is the place of William Ruto in this handshake thing? So much so that whatever antipathy, whatever hatred that these people may have for him seems to transcend even all the lovey-dovey of the handshake. Because we've seen someone like Gladys Wanga, for example, who has embraced the handshake, I think, so vigorously that she's in that thing called Embrace. You remember?
Yes.
And she was on the front line in attacking the deputy president's supporters. So what is this thing that somehow Ali Hassan Joho is able to deal with the handshake issue when it comes to President Kenyatta, because now they seem to have some relationship going on there, but not so with the deputy president?
I know something Ashuri mentioned in the beginning about painting someone in a particular light, making him seem, if you want to say, corrupt or involved in one issue or another, in a way to try and show them in a particular unpleasant light in the eyes of the people. Reminds me of, I think, the US presidential elections. I remember there was a time it was of course between Hillary and Donald Trump, and the pollsters had even said this was Hillary's election to lose. She was way up there, alikuwa anashinda anachukua hiyo kiti. And then something happened in November. I think it was to do with the emails. And things changed overnight.
And James Comey.
Yes, the former. And things changed overnight, and she lost an election that nobody thought she would lose. And I think for us now, the fact that tunaanza mapema sana na mambo ya 2022, and the fact that at some point William Ruto is the front runner to maybe to be the flag bearer for Jubilee, that will be the party that will be his vehicle, has sort of like brought the other players in the game sitting upright and thinking, how can we stop this guy in his tracks very early on? And maybe this is what they're using.
Put it this way, game ni marathon, ni mapema sana, it's too early. When you say about front runners, who is the top contender and so on and so forth, it's a bit too early.
It's too early.
So quite a number of things will happen. A lot more insults will happen. Guys who didn't like each other will start liking each other. Guys who are currently liking each other will go different ways. And this also tells us about the deceitful nature of our politics. I mean, look, the guys who are cheering the handshake and who now are saying very nice things about Baba are the same guys who are calling him Kemondo. You remember? The guys who are now saying very nice things about Uhuru Kenyatta,
call him Jamba.
yeah, the people who are saying very nice things about Uhuru today are the same guys who are saying ni computer generated, isn't it? So that also shows us how fluid our political scenario is. Guys can quickly like each other, quickly dislike each other, and the same situation is going to happen. And the unfortunate thing is that while at the top level, these guys will insult each other and reconcile, quote unquote, does that also translate uku mashinani? Guys who didn't like each other because they were told dislike Jamila, or guys who were told like Joe, and then tomorrow they were told dislike him and like Linus. Now, shows how deceitful our political nature is.
This same week, Linus, we saw one David Murathe on Newsnight saying rather interesting things. And I think hard pressed to answer pertinent questions about the position he has taken. This is a man who has said all manner of things about the deputy president. He has not been able to explain, at least in that interview, whether he's speaking for the president or he doesn't. Talked about the Jubilee nominations having been rigged. David Murathe, 2 months or so after. Is it 2 months? No, January.
January
was like 2
yeah.
months. Sorry.
Yeah.
January was like 2 months long. Yes,
It
but
seems like it's been that long with all the political rhetoric.
It was actually that long.
Yeah. What do you make of him 1 month later?
I saw him struggling. I saw him losing energy. I saw him generating little interest than he did in January when he first began those attacks on Deputy President
no one is looking for
William
him for a
Ruto.
TV interview soon.
I don't think anybody will be looking for him. He sat over there with our colleague Hussein, and he couldn't answer some of those questions around the issue of deceit. Why are you raising this question now? Why is the Deputy President William Ruto not desirable now, when for 2 terms he was the running mate of President Uhuru Kenyatta? Why is this suddenly corrupt and unsuitable? Why was he suitable to be running mate? And only after the election is he deemed unsuitable. So, and he struggled with those questions. I see Murathe struggling going forward to sell his narrative that he is pushing for some greater good. I think he's fighting a very, very narrow kind of battle, basically targeting the deputy president, and maybe at a personal level not preferring him to be the next president. So the issue is that of deceit, which he couldn't really answer.
Wow.
But before Jamila steps in, at what point do personal differences become national differences or a national issue? If, for example, Hassan Joho has a problem with William Ruto, or David Murathe has a problem with William Ruto, at what point do these personal issues become national issues?
Let me take you back to 2013, when we were told that some issues were personal.
Yeah.
Some cases at the ICC were personal.
Yep.
Personal challenge.
They were personal. In fact, that was what they were called.
Challenge.
And it became a national challenge. In fact, it became an issue of sovereignty.
Yeah, but
Just to show you how those lines are blurred
though
from
in all
time to
fairness,
time.
I think it starts there. It starts at the basic level, because you don't just imagine, say, your candidature for president is a national cause. No, it's actually a personal cause.
Yep.
Personal accomplishment and all that. It is for the population to then decide that you actually represent the national cause. So, close combat of the kind that we've seen between Joho and Ruto's supporters is where it all starts.
In line with what you were saying, sorry, Joe, is also when you are a party official, when are you now coming to a national platform to say, oh, but those are my views and not the view of the party, or I'm not speaking in my capacity as vice chair or party leader, that sort of thing. You know, also that's a line that's blurred, and I think it's usually a lame defense. So you come out as an official of a party saying one thing, oh, but I'm not speaking in my official capacity, but I'm speaking, you know, this is private, these are my views, these are not, and that's what Murathe did here the other day. These are not the president's views, these are mine. They serve no purpose.
Those disclaimers do not work. People will hear what they want to hear. here based on who you are.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say this. I think that personal positions that people take, whether I have a difference with you or with Jamila, whatever, I think they become national only to the extent that that person is successful in framing them as national questions.
Yeah.
Because you see, if I have a problem with you, maybe we disagreed about some tender or something, but then I come and say this guy is the most corrupt person in Kenya, or I say that this person stole ABCD. Those are things that the country is likely to be interested in. When I call someone a thief or a drug dealer, whatever. And by the way, I don't know whether those things are true. They could be. Probably they are not. But the larger point I'm trying to make here is that politicians are very successful in camouflaging whatever private differences they may have in a bigger sort of national concern that they think would tag close to the hearts of people.
Isn't that what Murathe is trying to do now? Trying to say, and he said this to Hussein, that this is not about William Ruto, this is about the deputy president and whether they're running a joint ticket.
I mean,
he's trying to sort of find, he's trying to find a basis in law as to whether he'll be successful with that argument. I'm not sure how well he was able to defend it on Newsnight, that this is a legal issue, this is an interpretation of the Constitution.
He has been extremely incoherent in that regard, because once first he comes with those spurious legal arguments that cannot stand, that any lay person can tell that no, this cannot work. But then secondly, he starts with this corruption thing. So he has not had a consistent narrative that then would convince anyone that he is honest and is coming into this with clean hands, as
I think just something you mentioned right before, you started talking about Murathe, about our politicians, and you also said it is about how things change so quickly from the history of this country. I'm sure Kaikai would be able to tell us from NDP, LDP, KANU, KADU and all that. People who were friends before and then were enemies, and then come the next elections, they're friends. And also, it reminds me of how our political parties are formed as vehicles for elections. We come together and form a political party, and by the next we are friends now, in between tumekosana, and then we form another party. So it's all very confusing. And I think Kenyans need to start learning about this, about our politicians. And it's about the fundamental, down to the roots, when we queue from 4 a.m. Apo Kilimani, Pali, where I vote, and to choose a leader. Why am I choosing this particular person? What is he or she going to do for me? We need to think about the kind of people we are choosing as our leaders.
Thinking about it, it's also good to realize and to acknowledge that politics pia ni kusetiana, setting each other up. Did you hear Murathe unleash details about how the nominations were botched? I thought that was the take home for the Newsnight. I mean, everybody said that the nominations were flawed, but the party defended them and said they were the best, and guys who were making noise were losers, and so on and so forth. Now when he makes that admission, then it goes to tell you that politicians will agree to do a few things, but when they fall out, what a setiana.
Okay, I think we need to move to one last aspect of this, which is the expulsions of are they expulsions, attempted expulsions, Suleiman Dori, Aisha Jumwa? What is that really going to be about? Because there is a question of just the legal sort of rigmarole around ejecting someone from a party, but then there is also the politics of it. And I think that the fact that these MPs are trying to fight this, sort of using the law and procedure and all of this thing, is just one side of the battle. There is also a whole political thing around it. Linus.
You see, Joe, we've been down this path before as a country. Political parties have done this before.
You were going to say down that rabbit hole before.
Attempts to impose some order in the party has been done before, but it's very, very difficult in this country because essentially this is a partyless country. Let's not cheat each other about these other names, that do exist. They are mere faces of that represent certain individuals. Now, Aisha Jumwa and Dori Suleiman, it'll be a very long process to get them expelled. First of all, because it has to be heard and proven that they had gone through the proper processes within ODM itself. But look, in the older days, we had defections. And that was when our politics was still a bit structured, where our members of parliament who then profess either agreement or loyalty to a party different from that they got elected in, then have to cross the floor and go and seek re-election. We all remember Tom Obondo, the first defector. And then there was...
from Dewa.
Yeah, from Dewa. Then there was Momanyi from Kisii. Protest Momanyi from Kisii. And then the list continued. I think Shamala from Western Kenya.
From Ikolomani.
Ikolomani.
And then Khaniri.
Yes. The irony of this all is that this was happening during the KANU Moi years, where politics was actually a bit structured, and Moi was very big on, are you with us or with them? Yeah. And if you are with us, then cross over to this. Don't come wearing an ODM jacket. You have to come and actually change your kit and wear the KANU kit. And that is what should happen. Essentially, this is supposed to be the work of the political parties registrar. They're supposed to impose those strict procedures so that where politicians have changed loyalties, they should seek fresh mandate from the people. Because how do you come from, say, a Jubilee constituency, and then you are suddenly going around with ODM in party functions? Say you are from Ichungwa's constituency.
Actually, during that time is when the terminology of defection actually came. It existed in the dictionary, but it entered the Kenyan political lingo at about that time.
And I consider it, I mean, that time was more decent than it is right now, where you have politicians from different parties sitting in an NEC of a party that did not elect them. That's odd.
But you see...
Briefly, Gashuri, so we take a break.
Discipline in political parties is enforced by the political parties themselves. If they deem their member is going haywire, is moving out of tangent in terms of party loyalty and doing that which is required by the political party, they're supposed to be whipped into line. And the procedures, every political party in their constitution has a clear mechanism of how to discipline errant members. So as long as the party can prove that we followed the right procedure, then that member can easily be struck off from the register of that political party. But now, as Lina says, it's a very long process. And the errant members are not doing it on their own. They have a certain backing. I mean, look at Dorie and Aisha Jumo. Look at Senator Kipchumba Murkomen saying that he's going to
represent them. And it's also a very interesting choice.
At the ODM National Governing Council. It clearly shows you where he's coming from and where they're coming from and what is the general direction and the general choreography around it. So instilling discipline in political parties is a necessary thing, though a tough thing.
Vaughn, make it brief or you get expelled.
Or I get... While all of this was happening, I'm just going to flip the script. Something interesting happened. The president, had Tshisekedi. I was a good visitor. I'm sorry, I just want to take this on a different tangent. He also invited a rather curious person, Perence Shiri, who is a member of the cabinet in Zimbabwe. A person who is associated with
disgrace.
Yes, with one of the worst atrocities in Zimbabwe, presiding over that 5th Brigade that where 20,000 Ndebele were killed in the late 1980s. If this is some sort of diplomacy masterstroke on the part of the president, well in. If not, I can only imagine the people of Zim who are going through quite a bit right now, and what that said, that a man known to be associated with mass atrocities in Africa, was then received at the highest office in the land.
Though I don't see Perence Shiri as in isolation. He represents the regime. He is a colleague of the president. The president worked as the defense minister at the time when Perence Shiri was the commander of the 5th Brigade in Matabeleland. So they are in office. I don't think Kenya had a choice on who it can deal with as far as the President Mnangagwa's government is concerned. This is the cast. It's either Perence Shiri, Mnangagwa himself, or Vice President, remind me his name.
Unless you're going to say, well, you know what?
He might have been
I'm not interested in this minister. Can you give me another one?
or it could have been done by the foreign minister. I mean, you know, there's just, that for me was a very curious happening, and where even the president said, you know, we're glad that Zimbabwe is taking progress towards resolving its issues. The issues in Zimbabwe right now are, you know, it's in a very
But of course, Joe Yvonne,
sorry,
it just means Parent Shiri is a very crucial member of the administration in power right now.
And that visit
he is
was
a special envoy.
Yes.
If he's sent, then this is a very, very central figure in
and it's an attempt at sort of getting, you know, sort of political support for whatever is happening in the country. I just thought I would point that out while we were all screaming and shouting at each other. This was an interesting thing for me that happened.
So were you illustrating that it can be worse?
Yes, with Parent Shiri coming.
All right, we probably assigned that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Didn't we say that this was a change from Mugabe's Zimbabwe? But anyway, we are taking a break. When we come back, we will discuss that landmark ruling that gave land to the ladies when we come back.